Journey to the Unknown Through the Vortex. Chapter 4. The Light Clouds. Next morning, Ron Carter was summoned to the Westwood Police Station by Lieutenant Wilson to make statements that will be entered into the missing person case file of Jake. Lieutenant Wilson wanted to complete this task and close the case and filed the report of Jake's disappearance. Ron decided to invite Ken Harding along to give his theories about the strange light cloud. Lieutenant Wilson: Hello, Ron, who is this?
Ron, this is Dr. Ken Harding. I believe he can help us with Jake's disappearance.
Lieutenant Wilson did not even acknowledge Ken's outstretched handshake. Ooh, hello. What does he have to do with your son's disappearance?
Ron, Dr. Harding was my college physics lecturer and I consulted him on my son's disappearance.
He has interesting theories on the case which I want the police to record down.
Lieutenant Wilson: Well, since nobody has any idea what happened at the super slide, go right ahead. Ken then related his deductions made on the observations from his analysis of the film footage shot of the incident. As Ken related his theories of the incident, Lieutenant Wilson's facial expression changed from one of attentiveness to incredulity. Lieutenant Wilson, in the last 10 minutes, I have never heard a bigger load of horse poo in my life. So, you are telling me that the light clouds are from an unknown place, maybe even another planet or dimension?
Ha!
There must be another reason for Jake's disappearance. By the way, I have every intention of booking you, Ron and Ken, for interfering with an ongoing police investigation, and illegal removal and possession of evidence from the crime scene. Ron, the crime scene you speak of was the disappearance of my son.
I will do anything I can to get to the bottom of this whole incident you speak of.
Lieutenant Wilson was about to reply when one of the duty sergeants popped his head through the doorway of his office and shouted, Hey Lieutenant, you should come and see what is on the KWTB network newsflash. Lieutenant Wilson, Ken and Ron all stepped out of the office and stared at the TV screen. News announcer: We bring you breaking news of the events in Tijuana, Mexico, of strange lights appearing over an industrial site in Otay. The TV screen then showed smartphone videos shot of these light clouds. Ron, Lieutenant, Ken, look, those are exactly what appeared over the super slide when my son disappeared.
Ken, seems like our friends the light clouds have shown up in Tijuana, Mexico. Lieutenant Wilson: What the hell is going on? Ron, Ken, what do we do now? Ken, I am going to Tijuana, Mexico on the next flight. Lieutenant Wilson: Make sure the both of you are reachable by phone.
Ken Harding drove home and picked up a daybag with his passport and a few changes of clothes and caught the next available flight to Tijuana. On arrival at the airport at Tijuana, Ken hailed a taxi and asked the driver to bring him to the scrapyard where the light clouds have showed up.
The taxi driver shook his head. No es posible, señor. Ken, ¿por qué no?
In his limited Spanish.
The taxi driver put his fingers up and indicated money.
Ken pushed 2 Andrew Jacksons into his palm, 2 $20 bills, and the taxi driver smiled and said,
Si, señor.
As they approached the scrapyard, there was already a tailback of traffic on the road leading up to the industrial complex at Mesa Otay, Tijuana. The taxi stopped in the traffic and Ken asked the driver, How far to the scrapyard where the lights are?
The taxi driver shook his head and replied, 20 kilometros.
Ken gave the driver another $20 and told him, Go to the opposite side of the road and get me there. The taxi driver swung his wheel and went onto the side of the other road and proceeded to swerve in and out of the road shoulder and avoiding the many street vendors with their carts of food and merchandise. Ken got out of the taxi at the gate of the scrapyard only to find the gates closed by the police. Around the gates into the scrapyard, it was pandemonium with a huge crowd of people trying to get in. Vehicles for TV film crews were also parked just a short distance to the gate. One look at the crowd and Ken decided to look for another way in. Just then, there was a huge commotion and a collective gasp rose from the crowd at the gate. They all pushed their way to one side of the fence and gawked at the light cloud which showed up within sight of the perimeter fence. Using the opportunity of the distraction of everyone's attention, Ken slipped through a break in the left side fence which was now unmanned by the police. Inside the compound, Ken found 2 press helicopters hovering overhead. The cameramen on board were filming live footage of 2 strange light clouds hovering over the main part of the scrapyard. They seemed to be most attracted to the compacted scrap cars stacked up in heaps of metal slabs. The light clouds were just like the one Ken saw in the super slide footage, but nothing on film can compare to the light spectacle in front of him. As he watched, one by one the metal slabs were glowing and being absorbed by the light clouds. It was clear that the metal slabs were disappearing somewhere as the light clouds absorbed them. One of the light clouds that had drifted closer to the perimeter continued to feed on the metal slabs. It grew and contacted the high-tension wires that brought electrical supply to the scrapyard. Sparks flew and the electrical current flowed from the lines to the light cloud and back to ground. One of the TV helicopters flew closer to this light cloud and the cameraman and reporter on board could be seen to be filming all these very strange happenings. Without warning, the light cloud began to grow tentacles and one of these tentacles flailed and contacted with the helicopter. Sparks flew and the helicopter, bathed in a halo of bright lights, began to flicker in and out of view. Ken Harding, close to what was happening, waved and shouted at the persons in the helicopter, "Hey, all of you in the chopper, get out now, jump." The pilot tried to turn the chopper away, but the light cloud reached out with its tentacles and wrapped around its blades. Ken climbed up to the pile of metal slabs with a top tier of rubber tires and tried to help if they did jump from the chopper. As the light cloud began to envelop the front of the chopper, the female reporter prepared to jump from the chopper cabin. Ken managed to reach the top of the mound of slabs just in time to watch her jump from the chopper. But as she exited the chopper, she knocked her head in a glancing blow against the side of helicopter doorway. Ken caught her with outstretched arms, but the impact knocked both down to the top tier of rubber tires. Ken tried to help her up to stand up, but she was unconscious. Ken picked her up and carried her down from the mound and then laid her down on the grass. Ken cradled Anne's still motionless body in his arms and took out a bottle from his backpack and sprinkled some water on her face. He breathed easy after and opened her eyes but still had a dazed look from her fall. Anne looked up at Ken and blinked hard. "Who are you?" Ken caught the full view of Anne Waterston's face and was taken in by her beauty. "From your press badge, you must be Ms. Anne Waterston of the Coat Network." "Hi, I am Dr. Ken Harding." Anne pushed herself up from his arms and said, "Get away from me. I can take care of myself. I always have." With that she tried to stand up but was wobbly on her feet and Ken had to quickly stand up and give her a supporting shoulder to cling onto. She dusted herself down and started to walk away. Then her reporter instincts kicked in and she found herself wondering. She turned around and confronted Ken Harding. "And, you say you are Dr. Harding, well, what kind of doctor are you and what brings you here just in time to catch me jumping from the chopper?" "Ken, I just saved you from breaking your neck, Ms. Anne Waterston of the Cove. The story why I am here is a bit too convoluted to relate right now. Let me set up my equipment and then I will try to explain what I know to you later." It was total chaos outside the compound. The incident of the chopper had stirred up the local population and the press corps already on site. 1,000 people with smartphone cameras were snapping away ready to publish their images and videos online, and these were going viral worldwide. After Ken had taken enough readings and there was no more change in the feeding patterns of the light clouds, Ken started to pack up his equipment. "And, already finished with your data collection. So, if you know anything about these light clouds, then can you please tell me?" "Ken, not now and here, I think we should get out of here. I need my equipment from my laboratory back home in the USA." They walked out together and exited the scrapyard through the same hole in the fence Ken used earlier. When they reached the road, Ken and Anne tried to wave down a car or taxi, but there were none to be had. The main road was totally jammed with onlookers, and with the cordon set up by the police, it was impossible to get through back to town. Ken looked at his map on his phone and found a minor road which was more direct route back to the airport. He looked at Anne and said, "And you ready for a hike back to town?" Anne said, "I have covered Afghanistan and Iraq as a correspondent, and I do the half marathon. You worry about yourself." Ken, "Oh, a fellow fitness buff, I do the triathlon myself, so let's go." As they walked down the main road back towards the town center, they talked about all the events that have happened to date. Just half a kilometer down the road, they managed to hitch a ride at the back of a truck carrying bananas. As the truck bumped and skipped over humps and potholes in the side road, Ken took the time to tell Anne about the incident, starting from the super slide to his theories about these entities. Anne listened intently and often in disbelief and asked many questions. at the end of it, and thought hard and realized that she best sticks with Ken if this phenomenon was happening. The truck dropped them off at the highway where Ann and Ken managed to flag down a taxi to bring them to the hotel where Ann was staying. Ken went up to the reception to book himself into the hotel. Having rushed out from the USA, he did not manage to book a hotel, and it made sense to book into the same hotel as Ann. But as he was about to sign for the room, Ann, who was in the lobby, came up to him and tugged at his sleeve. "And, Ken, hold it, come with me at once." And grabbed his hand and literally dragged him to lobby where the TV news was showing a news flash. "Ken, and what's so urgent that I cannot even check in and grab a shower?" "And, never mind that, you can shower in my room. Look." CBNK News Channel Primetime came on with breaking news of the appearance of the cloud entities at Los Angeles, and the anchor for the evening primetime news, Ryan Neal, started giving out details. "Ryan, we have the breaking news of strange happenings at an industrial park in suburbs Calle Cuarta industrial area of Los Angeles. Reports coming in from location gave indications of strange light entities that have appeared from nowhere. Here are videos shot by the security personnel on site. It is a bit grainy, but it is really unbelievable to watch." The TV screen showed images of light clouds that looked exactly like what both Ken and Ann had seen just an hour ago. Ken and Ann watched in fascination, and the news changed back to the anchor, who introduced a guest to discuss the appearance of these entities. "Ryan, we have with us today a science expert in unexplained phenomena who may be able to help us understand what is happening, Mr. Jack Flanagan." "Ryan, welcome, Jack. I understand that you are an aeronautical engineer, written articles on extraterrestrial visitations to Earth, and also run a website on unidentified flying objects in the sky in your spare time." "Jack, thank you, Ryan, for inviting me." "Yes, I run a webzine that investigates strange, unexplained sightings of aerial objects, and it is my belief that there is a conspiracy being conducted to cover up the truth of what is happening." "Ryan, so what theories of grand conspiracy should our viewers be hearing?" "Jack, these light entities are extraterrestrials that have come to our world on the back of our interplanetary probes." "Ryan, but our interplanetary probes only go one way. Did NASA send any of our probes out with a return ticket for these things to visit Earth?" "Jack, no, the USA did not, but the Russians or the Chinese did." "Ryan, I think you lost the whole audience right there. Explain what you are telling us." "Jack, our government built much smaller craft with smaller power supplies using more focused beam transmission of signals back to Earth. When the Russians send out a deep space probe, their craft have bigger power supplies with less shielding, so the energy signal is sent on a more diffused manner. My theory is that ETs can pick these transmissions up and trace it back to Earth." "Ryan, and what are you saying?" "Jack, our government does not want to know that we have brought these ETs back to Earth." "Ryan, but I thought your theory says the Russians and Chinese space probes are the ones that created the energy signal." "Jack, my theory is that ETs home in on the region with the highest density of signal transmission on Earth. The North American continent is right there on the top, and California is especially a hotspot for transmissions." "Ryan, well, viewers, you heard it from Jack Flanagan. These are ETs coming to Earth riding on the back of the signal beams our space probes send back to the home stations." "Interesting. Let us have the phone calls from our viewers." Back at the hotel, Ann was watching the news with growing envy and frustration. "And I should be out there presenting a news special on the appearance of these entities, and instead I am stuck in this Tijuana hotel lobby." "Ken, you still can be. Can you call CBNK and get me onto the news show?" "And why do you want to be on that TV show? It's for crackpots like that Flanagan guy to vent his crazy conspiracy theories." "Well, just for the record, I think I can get you on the show, but if I do, what will you say?" "Ken, my hypothesis that these light clouds are not ETs but a portal device to transport matter and energy to a different location not on Earth." "And, you want to say that on national TV? Everyone will think you are another nutcase." "Ken, you've forgotten my videos of the super slide incident and my readings." "And, so you want me to get you onto the show now?" When Ken nodded his head, and scrolled through her phone contact list and searched for the right contact. "And, hi, is that Robbie Kowalski?" "Oh, hi Robbie, this is in Waterston." "Oh, how am I? Well, you are talking to one lucky survivor of a chopper incident."
Thanks to a certain gentleman right there at the exact spot at the right time to catch me. Yes, I am shaken but otherwise unscathed. You want me on your show? Okay, but I have someone who should be featured on your show right at this moment. I will let you talk to him, Dr. Ken Harding, the man who caught me and broke my fall from the chopper. Ken, hello, Robbie, hi, I am Ken Harding. Robbie, good for you, Dr. Ken, saving the skin of my favorite reporter, and tell me what brought you to Tijuana exactly at the time and needed your help. Ken, I have information on these light clouds appearing in Los Angeles that will shock the world, and I want to get onto Ryan Cummings' show. Chapter 5. Heliu Science Council Chambers. Senior researcher Zuriel, a young native of the third planet of the SOL system from the G-class planetary system, has been brought back to Heliu by our dimensional gate mass transfer probes on a chance encounter. Chief scientist of Heliu Science Council Zekin, who was responsible for this mistake. Zuriel, I was following all the protocols set down by the Science Council, it was not supposed to happen. Zekin, so you say our protocols are faulty? Zuriel, no, I am not saying that, it is what we call a chance encounter. Zekin, we were lucky, or rather the young visitor was lucky in not ending up as mass loaded onto our rockets. We launch at Helius. No matter, we proceed with our mass gathering program. Zuriel, Chief Scientist Zekin and members of the Science Council, I say we must stop or at least pause sending our mass gathering probes out to the selected G-class star systems. We may be endangering native lifeforms in these destinations because of the great energy disruption our dimensional gate and the action of our probes creates. Zekin, senior researcher Zuriel, do I need to remind you of the vital importance of the mission we have set out to complete? Those probes gather the needed mass of the required atomic class for us to do mass seeding of our star Helius. It is one of our key measures to revive our star. Zuriel, but we are not able to control the actions of our autonomous probes. Even with the directives in their operating schemes, we cannot be certain their actions will not harm the native lifeforms they encounter on the targeted planets. Zekin, that is why you Zuriel have designed the lifeform detector, which is able to send alarm for us to control the actions of the probes before serious harm is done. Has it not worked, and you and your team monitored the signals and intervened and saved this young native from the third planet of the SOL system? Zuriel, members of the Science Council, I like to stress that this lifeform detection system worked as designed, even though its development and deployment were not officially sanctioned. In fact, I must admit the credit of saving this young native from the SOL system belongs to my daughter Zilia. She had noticed the alarm going off on the prototype that I installed in the dimensional control gate monitoring system in my basement laboratory. She alerted me and we diverted the young SOL native to the medical pod just in time to save his life. Zekin, then this incident is a successful test of the prototype. We can go ahead and install this lifeform detection system in all our probes and in all our control and monitoring stations. Our probes are sending back interesting and useful mass samples, just the correct materials we need to mass load our deliveries to Helius. Zuriel, Zekin, what our probes are doing at their destinations is not correct. They are targeting mass collections from obviously intelligent and developed local populations, and we have no positive means of controlling their actions once they transit to the other side of the dimensional gate. Zekin, Zuriel, what is your point then? That we are responsible for the actions of mass transfer bots on the other side of the gate? We have programmed certain restrictions on their actions, such as not to harm indigenous lifeforms they encounter. We cannot do more within the known limits of multiverse universe travel. Or do I have to reiterate those restrictions to you? Zuriel, members of the Science Council, I have always had my reservations about sending our mass transfer bots through the dimensional gate to other universes. To transit to other parts of our own universe where we can still maintain direct control over their actions is one thing, but to have our control curtailed by the limits of communications and transmission of control signals when our bots end up in another universe is another thing altogether. I say that we stop our bot program until we develop control over the bots. Chief Priest Zevon, who sits on the Science Council as the honorary observer, rose to speak. Senior researcher Zuriel, state your position in front of the council. But before you do so, I wish to remind all present that the dictates of the Joint Council of High Priests and Scientists formed after my predecessor Chief High Priest Zarin and myself established the sacred pact with Chief Scientist Heron previously. This dictate has been our guide to save our star Helius. I, Zevon as Chief High Priest, fully support Chief Scientist Zekin in this matter. Zekin, Chief Priest Zevon is correct to remind all members of the Science Council of the sacred task we have to save our star Helius. We must do everything in our power to revive the divine fires of Helius. Mass loading the rockets we dispatch to Helius is what we have been doing for years now. In recent years, suitable materials from areas of our universe in the proximity of Helios system have been depleted. That is why we have to explore the latest research breakthroughs we had on dimensional gate travel to send our mass transfer bots to suitable G-type planets in other universes. Zuriel, I recommend that we recall our bots sent to other universes and suspend operations until we can develop sensor and feedback programs that we can use to monitor and control the operations of the bots. Zekin, Zuriel, since I am the one who appointed you technical head of the dimensional control team, I am totally shocked that you can say this. Zevon, senior researcher Zuriel, your words and proposed actions bother on the seditious and sacrilegious. The directives have been established by consensus of the councils of the high priests and scientists since that sacred pact years ago. We have to abide by the directives and continue with this operation. Zekin, our star Helios is running out of AX-1 star fuel. While we are studying our star's behavior and reactions to our attempts to revive it, our best theories predict the need to increase the mass of Helios, and not just any mass but those of a certain atomic weight. Our ancestors have exhausted the accessible materials in the navigable space around our star system. We faced doom until the dimensional gate was invented. That is the prime objective of sending out our mass transfer probes out to other universes that we can detect and reach. It is imperative that we overcome any minor inconveniences we face and press on with the dispatch of our mass transfer bots. Our control over the bots is sufficient under our directive as long as no major harm is inflicted on the target destination of the bot. Zuriel, members of the council. I do not wish to argue the merits of my case repeatedly, nor should we waste time on semantics. What is right and wrong is what it is about and not what constitutes major harm. I mentioned the case of the young native of the SOL system and asked the council to accept my submission to halt sending our bots unsupervised to other dimensions. Zekin, Zuriel, enough debate about the gate program. You and all of us must follow the dictates of the joint council of the high priest and scientists. Do not forget it is also the law of the land set down by the Supreme Council. My direct instruction to you was to secure the young human and to present him to this council. Have you brought him here? Zuriel, but I wish to reiterate the moral hazard of our mass gathering activities vis-a-vis our need for. Zevon stood up and raised his seal of the Holy Order of Helicia, and with his other hand raised to symbolize the silence all Helicians follow before the seal. Zuriel stopped his speech in mid-sentence and bowed his head to the seal as is mandated in the scriptures of Helician theology. Zevon then spoke up to press home his argument. Zuriel, your direct instruction was to secure the young human and present him to this council. Have you brought him here? Zuriel felt the full weight of the strict theological and cultural teachings that all Helicians have been put through in child upbringing and in school. He bowed his head a second time and muttered under his breath, I respect and obey my instructions issued under the seal. He stood up from his chair and grudgingly gave a stiff bow to acquiesce to the direct command of the seal. He went out of the chamber through the doorway to bring Jake to appear before the council. Zekin, young native from SOL system, or do you have a name to call you by? Jake, my name is Jake and I want to go home to my dad, my father. Zevon, young soul native or Jake is it? We cannot send you home just yet. Jake, why not? You cannot hold me against my will. Send me back just as I was sent here by those light cloud things. Zuriel, Jake, calm down. It is not that we do not want to send you back, but those light cloud things are mass collection and transfer dimensional gate mechanisms. We are not set up to return. Zevon banged his hand on the conference table and shouted aloud, Stop. We do not share our secrets with outsiders. Zekin, we promise to do our best to return you to your home, when we have made more checks on our gate system first, so your return will have to wait. Jake, those light cloud things, you call them mass transfer bots. Why are you collecting mass to bring to your dimension? I understand that your star is aging. It is dying star, is it not? Is it for feeding your star? I am no physicist, but would nuclear materials be more suitable?
Zekin, well, this young Jake knows his science, but tell me, where does these nuclear materials occurring in nature? Our scouts have searched many star systems with no success. Jake, we have nuclear reactors on Earth, and they use the fuel refined in laboratories as nuclear fuel.
The spent fuel is even more radioactive after they are removed from the reactor core. Zevin, interesting information, young Jake, tell us more. What are these you call nuclear reactors on your planet?
Jake, why do you want to know?
No, you are not going after that nuclear material with your bots.
Oh no.
I am not telling you anymore. Zevin, send out the young Jake. This hearing is now in closed session.
After Jake was escorted out of the council chambers, Zekin spoke. Council members, young Jake must be referring to what our ancestors have banned generations ago, the dreaded atomic technology that culminated in the atomic war that caused our race so much destruction and grief. Zuriel, we cannot forget the benefit of that atomic age where energy from the atomic power stations was abundant and we were not so dependent on the light and energy of our star Helius.
Zevin, so what Jake called nuclear reactors must be a primitive version of our atomic power stations. We had that too before they were banned and dismantled. Zekin, can we program our mass transfer bots to locate these nuclear reactors and secure this nuclear material?
Zuriel, I do not think it is correct that we have intentions on the atomic power stations of these peoples. It is uncertain what damage we may do to their planet if our mass transfer bots attempt to retrieve these nuclear materials.
Zekin, this could be the breakthrough our research need.
We need to acquire these spent nuclear fuel materials at least for a trial delivery on our rockets to Helius.
Zuriel, I do not agree that we should acquire these nuclear materials from Jake's planet. Even if the nuclear material is the answer, there must be other ways to mine these materials for ourselves.
Zevin, Zekin, put this to a council vote at once. Zekin, council members, we have to vote on sending our mass bots to this planet to secure these nuclear materials at once.
Ayes, all except one. Zuriel, what are you voting?
Zuriel, I am abstaining. We need more time to find other G-class star systems with planets just like Earth, and even if our bots stay on Earth, we need time to find out all we can about this planet and its abundant resources before just deciding to go for their spent nuclear reactors fuel.
Zekin, the council vote is unanimous except you, Zuriel. Either you do the council's bidding, or you will be dismissed, and we will get someone else to take charge of the Dimensional Gate program.
Zuriel, I agree to heed the instructions of the council, but if the consequences of our actions harm the planet in the SOL system, I want the council to vote again to continue or stop the operation.
Zekin, alright Zuriel, we agree that we will revisit this issue when we have some of the nuclear materials in our research laboratories. Now go and carry out your instructions.